Hi, I'm Andrew Mitchell. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about page 1 of Form 5471. It's an information tax return required for certain foreign corporations by U.S. persons who own certain interests in foreign corporations. It's an important form to file because if you fail to file the form and were required to file the form, you can be subject to a $10,000 penalty or more. So just starting off with right at the top, the foreign corporations annual accounting period. Under Section 898, it's generally required to be the same as the U.S. majority owners. For individuals, that would be a calendar year. There is an exception in the regulations under proposed regulations under Section 898 that basically says if you've had no dividends to date and no Subpart F income to date, then you don't need to file the Form 5471 using the same year end as the U.S. shareholders. The U.S. shareholder, the U.S. person filing the return, is usually the U.S. owner of the foreign company. You would have the address of the U.S. owner listed here, the U.S. owner's identifying number. If it's an individual, it would be a Social Security number or an ITIN. If it's corporation, it would be an EIN. Category of filers can get kind of confusing. Category 1 filer has been repealed. Category 2 filer is generally for U.S. persons who are officers or directors of foreign corporations that need to file, but they only need to file in years that U.S. persons either acquired a 10% or more interest in the foreign corporation or the U.S. persons disposed of their full interest in the foreign corporation. And that's basically Category 3 filers. So you generally only need to have a Category 2 filer if you've got Category 3 filers. And Category 3 filers, as I just mentioned, is people who have acquired a 10% or more interest, or if you acquired, say, 10% and then you acquired another 10%, you would have to file a second time. But you don't, as a Category 3 filer, you don't need to file annually. You only need to file in the year of the event. Category 4 filer is if you control a foreign corporation, if you're a U.S. person that controls a foreign corporation. And control for that purpose can mean if you constructively control the foreign corporation. It doesn't mean necessarily direct ownership in the foreign corporation. It can mean if you have family members that also control the foreign corporation, then you may be considered to control the foreign corporation. Category 5 filer is generally if you're a U.S. person and you own at least 10% of the foreign corporation voting stock. That means that you're considered a, quote, U.S. shareholder, end quote. And you owned the shares for at least 30 days during the year, and it was a controlled foreign corporation. You can be multiple categories of filers. You can be a Category 2 filer, Category 3, Category 4, Category 5. In fact, if you own 100% of a foreign corporation in the year that you acquire the interest in the foreign corporation, you typically are a 2, 3, 4, and 5 categories of filers. Your percentage of ownership, you just listed here. If there's tiers of entities, it can get a little tricky because you've got some attribution rules that apply. But generally, it's pretty simple, just what the U.S. person owns in the foreign corporation. The filers, year-end information, typically calendar year for individuals. Item D here, persons on whose behalf this information return is filed. This section only needs to be filled in if there's more than one person that is filing Form 5471, and the person who's filing this Form 5471 is also filing the 5471 on behalf of other people. The other people also need to attach a statement to their tax return indicating that someone is filing the 5471 on their behalf. Typically, because you have to file a statement anyway on the other person's tax return, I usually just attach the Form 5471 to each person who needs to file the 5471. So I usually do not fill in this section D, but you can. It's pretty simple to do. The name and address of the foreign corporation. You have the employer identification number of the foreign corporation. Typically, the foreign corporation will not have an employer identification number unless it's engaged in a U.S. trade or business, or you've made a check-the-box election for the foreign entity on Form 8832. Reference ID number, that's a relatively new section, new item this year. And basically you can make up a number, and it's any number you want. I will often just put 1A. It's for the IRS to help keep track of the 5471s for instance, big companies that have hundreds of foreign companies. Sometimes the IRS gets confused as to which entity they're dealing with, because sometimes the names change or are similar, and this is intended to help them track entities better. Country under whose laws the foreign company is incorporated. That's pretty straightforward. Date of incorporation. Principal place of business. That's usually in the country of incorporation. Principal business activity code number. If you look at the last couple of pages of the 5471 instructions, it gives you the numbers that you can choose from. Principal business activity, that's just, it depends what it is. It's if you're selling widgets, then you would put widget sales. If you're performing services, software services, or other things, and you can usually pull that from the description on the business activity code. Functional currency, that can be in whatever, usually that's whatever currency the foreign corporation predominantly engages in its financial activities. It can be the US dollar. Typically it's whatever country's currency the foreign corporation is located in. Name and address of US branch or agent. Typically foreign corporations do not have US branches, so this section is typically blank. Same with item B here. Typically foreign corporations are not engaged in US trade or business, so they don't usually have US taxable income or US tax. The name and address of the foreign corporation's statutory or resident agent in the country of incorporation. And then you've got the name, address of the person who's got the books and records of the foreign corporation. The stock of the foreign corporation, typically this would be common shares or ordinary shares, might include preferred shares, and you would put the number of shares total. This is not just for the US filer, this is for the whole corporation. How many shares were outstanding at the beginning of the year, and how many shares were outstanding at the end of the year. On another video, I will do the rest of the Form 5471. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.
So in this video, I'm going to be discussing Form 5471.